World of Warcraft has seen some very dark times. Content droughts, design fiascos, scandals, systems too complex for their own good, and radio silence as community engagement hits an all-time low. And now Final Fantasy XIV and other competitors are closing in. But I don't think this has to be the end of the story for World of Warcraft. What World of Warcraft needs is simpler systems, more content, better community engagement so that the dev teams know what will get players excited to pick up World of Warcraft again. To that end, I have invented a system of my own, a simple system that gives players huge amounts of customization, that lets developers add awesome and useful abilities without fear of spellbar bloat, giving players the ability to upgrade 3 of their spells to be something new. I'm cooking up concepts for 7 of these upgrade spells for every spec. Some of them are returning favorites, some of them are brand new. Either way, Blizzard has my express permission to use every concept I post about in these videos in the comments or on the forums. And if the Blizzard developers are too pressed for time to engage with the community, then I will. I'll get the feedback on this concept, and even if they don't take a single one of my ideas, they'll know what the players want, and most importantly, why. And they can use that to make the game better, because I want this game better. I want WoW to last another decade. You know, monks and paladins have much in common. We're both classes that mix melee and magic. We've both got a tanking spec, a melee DPS spec, and a healing spec, and we've both got some religious connotations surrounding our mythos. Me mentioning all of this is probably giving a few Retribution Paladin players flashbacks to when Mists of Pandaria was in development and they felt threatened existentially. Ha. Anyhow, Holy Healing and Mistweaver Healing could hardly be more different, and I hope I understood enough of the nuances so I could put together a decent first iteration. Failing that, I hope I at least have something that can be built on or fixed to the point where it provides something that can get Mistweaver players excited. I have every intention of iterating based on feedback. I understand that there are probably going to be times when my thinking won't even be on the right track, which is why I err on the side of telling viewers too much about what I'm thinking. Well, that's part of it. The other part is that when I'm going on these stream of consciousness rants, sometimes when I give out too much information about what I'm thinking, it's funny. I hope. Now, enough fluff, time to get to the stuff. The first Mistweaver upgrade is Undo Harm, an upgrade to expel harm that is very mana efficient and heals for more. It heals your Soothing Mists target if you have one, or yourself if you don't, and deals a small amount of multi-target damage based on the amount healed. The second upgrade is Effuse, an upgrade to Vivify. It costs more mana and it heals for more, but it heals not only your target and your Renewing Mists targets, but it also heals your Essence Font, Chi Font, and Enveloping Mists targets. It's less mana efficient for single target, though. The third upgrade is Chi Font, an upgrade to Essence Font that I spoiled in the last one. Anyhow, it's got a lesser upfront heal with a stronger and longer-lasting heal over time, with a lower mana cost and a shorter cooldown. The fourth upgrade is Mist Bolt, an upgrade to Crackling Jade Lightning that has a 1.5 second cast time, and any Renewing Mists that are active have their duration extended by 2 seconds up to 100% of the base duration. The fifth upgrade is Blackout Strike, an upgrade for Blackout Kick that deals damage to multiple targets and resets the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick. The sixth upgrade is Cloaking Mist, an upgrade to Enveloping Mist that's channeled for 1.5 seconds and applies the Enveloping Mist buff at the end of a successful channel. During the channel, it does some upfront healing at the cost of a higher mana cost. Finally, we have Mist Bubble, an upgrade for Life Cocoon that has the same cooldown, but it reduces the damage of the target and nearby targets within 10 yards by 30% instead of creating a damage shield. And it increases the healing that they receive from your heal over time effects by 35%. Now for the thinking. I am used to healing as a Holy Paladin, and Mistweaving is so different from healing as Holy that I know I'm going to make mistakes. Probably a few glaring ones, even though I read through the guides on Icy Veins and consulted Wowhead quite a bit. I can tell that it's about having a lot of heal over time effects active and buffing them in various ways, but even then, it's different from druids too. When I read that Expel Harm wasn't even worth putting on your spell bar, even though it benefits from your mastery and heals both yourself and your Soothing Mists target, I figured it needed more oomph to make it worthwhile. Of course, straight up buffing Expel Harm is the smart way, the emotionally mature way, the totally not hypocritical and just trying to make my pet project look awesome way to solve that particular problem. You know, buff Expel Harm at the baseline. Don't bother with the pet project upgrade system. As soon as I typed that observation, I modified Undo Harm so that it heals only one target, since I figured the developers can simply buff Expel Harm, so an upgrade that simply buffs Expel Harm and does nothing else would be useless. So, if I make it so that Undo Harm is simply an extremely mana-efficient single-target heal on a cooldown, then at least it's different from the double healing that Expel Harm provides. Vivify is your bread and butter. It's timed cast, heals a single target, and if you happen to have some heal over time effects active, it heals them too. In fact, from what I've read, there are builds and tricks to getting as many heal over time effects active as you can at the same time, so you can take as much advantage of Vivify's healing and have a very mana-efficient group healing setup. I figured that increasing the number of heal over times that it can heal by dint of increasing the kinds of heal over time effects it can heal is a potentially useful trade-off, at least with some builds and playstyles. The increase to the single target heal is honestly just gravy, even if it might look like the main dish to an untrained observer, like me. I took the old Prune Diffuse ability's name for this one, and even though Effuse was more mana efficient and this upgrade is less mana efficient, I still picked that name. Of course, it's more mana efficient if you have a lot of heal over time effects active, isn't it? See what I did there? Yeah, okay, it's not that clever. Anyhow, for a while, I thought about upgrading Essence Font so that it's more upfront healing and less heal over time. Then I thought that the reverse of that was a better trade-off as far as your mastery is concerned. And then I realized I was totally confusing Restoration Druid Mastery with Mistweaver Monk's Mastery, and this stream of consciousness just got cringe in a hurry. That being said, the Effuse upgrade I have for Vivify would work better with Chi Font, so maybe I erred in the right direction? If I'm told the opposite is at least situationally better, then I'll probably rename this one Breath of Heaven so as to draw in another Diablo 3 monk ability. Heck, if I'm told to, I can do both. Have one potential upgrade to Essence Font be more heal over time and less upfront, and have a second upgrade to Essence Font that's more upfront and less heal over time. I've had a few cases where I upgrade the same ability in two different ways and let players pick between them. But I'll only do this if feedback tells me to, or if I end up with a gaping hole and can't resist pulling in another Diablo 3 monk ability. Now, this is an aside, but the plan with the semi-borrowed power upgrade system is that the system sticks around from expansion to expansion because it lets the developers keep adding new abilities without worrying about spellbar bloat. And even if Breath of Heaven doesn't get added in this expansion, the next expansion afterwards is an obvious place where we could add Breath of Heaven. Not bad. Anyhow, Mistbolt and Blackout Strike were kinda copies from the Windwalker and kinda not. See, I saw how much Rising Sun Kick was being used with the Rising Mists builds, and that increases mana efficiency wonderfully, so I figured that Mistbolt and Blackout Strike could add some more ways of getting those kinds of benefits. You don't even need the Rising Mist talent to get the benefit from Mistbolt, you just need to equip the Mistbolt upgrade. I hope I picked the right number of seconds to prolong the heal over time for. Feedback would be appreciated here. And it just dawned on me that I'm asking for feedback for something specific, the number of seconds to have Mistbolt prolong renewing mists for. The reality might well be that I actually need feedback for something a lot more general than what I'd actually asked for. That's always a possibility. Blizzard themselves have hit that pitfall in the past. Again, I'm erring on the side of rambling streams of consciousness and giving out as much information about what I'm thinking as possible so that when I am on the wrong tracks of thinking, you can understand why I'm on the wrong track and get me back on the right track. Anyhow, Blackout Strike is only useful while soloing or with the Rising Mist talent. I'm not 100% sure if that's good or bad. For the most part, I'd wanted these upgrades to be useful with or without talents, and I haven't designed any of them to fit into a particular talent build until now. At least none that I remember. Anyhow, I'm not sure if this is good or bad. Feedback would be appreciated here. I should add that I had about 2 different drafts of what I'm doing with Blackout Strike. One of them had a % chance to reset the cooldown on Rising Sun Kick, and another was guaranteed to reset its cooldown. We're looking at the guaranteed one now. I could use feedback on which is better. At least, I think I could. If the feedback actually involves booting Blackout Strike out of the upgrade spread altogether and putting something better in its place, then, well, that's your feedback, and that's what I'll do. And I remember that Windwalkers once upon a time had Chi Explosion as a talented replacement for Blackout Kick, and instead I made it an upgrade for Spinning Crane Kick in their spread. If I'm told that making Chi Explosion an upgrade for Blackout Kick is a wiser move, making it something like what Holy Nova is to Priests, a small AoE damage and heal, then, that's what I'll do. And if I remember right, Enveloping Mists used to be a chi-consuming finisher back when all 3 monk specs had chi as a resource. Now, as a Holy Paladin, I actually like Holy Power. I know there's those who don't, but re-adding chi for Mistweavers isn't the kind of overhaul I'd want to add as part of this upgrade concept unless a clear majority of Mistweaver players think that's a smart idea. Anyhow, Enveloping Mists seems like a kind of an emergency heal, the high cost for a high return that you get quicker. And I decided to allow it to hit your target even faster with the Cloaking Mists upgrade because the 1.5 second channel is shorter than the 2-second cast time that Enveloping Mists has as baseline. And it's got a bit more upfront healing for the price of even less mana efficiency. I was starting to run out of ideas at this point, and when that happens, I tend to do one of 2 things. Either go for cooldowns or go for abilities that are off the beaten path. Heals for damage dealers, damage abilities for healers, utility and mobility and crowd control abilities, and self-preservation cooldowns for anyone, etc. But I'd already upgraded 2 damage abilities, so I decided to aim for a cooldown instead. This one provides a damage-lowering cooldown that isn't raid-wide unless everyone stacks in it, but it can affect a significant number of targets. It doesn't do a direct damage shield either, but it can give you massive group healing potential. That doesn't stack with Revival at all. You trade a single target cooldown for a group cooldown with this trade-off. I'm hoping this is a pretty decent situational upgrade, and that the baseline Chi Cocoon is still more useful in some situations. If I should modify this so that it's an additional % for all your healing, or if I should modify it so that it isn't as much of a damage shield, or, whatever I should do with this, please let me know and I will make it happen. One upgrade that I had considered was Chi Explosion as an upgrade to Spinning Crane Kick, but Chi Explosion's flavor was so tied in to the varying amount of chi that it consumes that I felt like it wouldn't fit for a spec that doesn't actually use chi. Still, adding 1 more AoE heal, even if it's also a damage ability, might be useful, so if I'm told that one of these upgrades is an awful idea to the point that no amount of retooling or trade-offs changing can salvage it, or if I'm told that an instant multi-target heal with no cooldown like Chi Explosion is actually a better idea than one of these other upgrades, I'll bring it in. I'll swap it in. Like I said, I know I'm going to make mistakes with these upgrades, so I'm prepared to change which trade-offs any and all upgrades are offering. I'm prepared to change the numbers, I'm prepared to make whatever changes I'm told that are better, and to discard anything that just plain doesn't work. One last back pocket idea is an upgrade to Essence Font that spreads Renewing Mists heal over time all over the place. Maybe call it Font of Renewal. Of course, Essence Font already spreads a heal over time all over the place that can stack with Renewing Mist, so maybe just by suggesting Font of Renewal as an upgrade for Essence Font, I'm missing the point. And if I wanted something that doesn't miss the point, maybe I'd be better off upgrading Renewing Mists itself so that it applies the heal over time to multiple targets with some other trade-off. I don't know. Again, this is just something I can grab if players don't like what's in the existing spread or that you can react to in general. Shoot, the back pocket concept is kind of a cheat to win for me, isn't it? If a terrible idea is in the back pocket section, I can pretend it's not important, that it doesn't count against me because it's not in the spread of 7 upgrades. By contrast, if a good idea is in the back pocket, I can get viewers interested with it legitimately. It's a total cheat to win. I love it! Now, when I started out with these upgrade concepts, I went ability by ability, not purpose by purpose, if you see what I mean. I asked myself, which abilities exist in this specs kit that I can give an upgrade to? And when I created upgrades based on which abilities I could upgrade, I often aimed for something that I thought looked or sounded cool. Almost always I wanted the upgraded ability to feel at least a little bit different from the original. Often I tried to create some kind of trade-off, making the upgrade situationally useful based on things like the number of targets affected or having a stronger effect with a longer cooldown, things like that. Rarely did I upgrade the same ability more than once for the same spec, but while I was putting together each spread of upgrades, what I didn't do, and what I probably should have done in retrospect, was to figure out what goals a player would have while they're looking at a list of upgrades, and then make sure upgrades exist in the spread that allow the player to pick upgrades that help them achieve those goals. In my next iteration, I plan to have that design goal in mind, to consider what the player wants to accomplish and how they could accomplish it with the upgrades. I strongly suspect that in this next iteration, there will be a lot more cases where I upgrade the same ability in 2 or more different ways. That will give players more options, and since that's going to be the goal with goal-oriented design, who knows? I might even have 3 different upgrades for the same ability in the end. However, I can do this much more effectively in an environment that has a great deal of feedback available, and that's where you come in. You have knowledge that comes from experience with these specs. I don't. I tried to do my research on Wowhead and Icy Veins for each spec, but inevitably there'll be things you know that I don't because you have experience that I don't have. You'll have more and better ideas than I could hope to have, and I know I need those, so please, let me know what you think of these upgrades and what better ideas you have for what to put in their places. Now we come to the part where I look at my first iteration through the lens of how can a player achieve goals with these upgrades. Considering how much I probably missed the point while building the first iteration, evaluating how the first iteration does in terms of purposes might not be that useful, but at least I can do a little evaluating this way. Undue Harm and Cloaking Mist are good for single target, but that's only 2 upgrade slots, really. Maybe Effuse can be an upgrade in a pinch, but since it's less mana efficient for single target, maybe I shouldn't be counting it. This is making me wonder if I should have put in an upgrade for Soothing Mists. For multi-target healing, there's Chi Font, Effuse, and either Mist Bubble or Mist Bolt, depending on whether you want Burst or Sustain. And Mist Bolt only prolongs some of your heal's durations. So maybe I didn't do so great with this first one after all, even before I take player feedback into account. Now that I think about it, there's probably some other monk healing abilities that have been pruned that I missed, like Surging Mist. And I don't know what all else. Should I have thought about using those as upgrades? I'm definitely very open to feedback on this one, and I would not be surprised if Iteration 2 on Mistweaver Monks looks way different from Iteration 1. Of course, I know Blizzard probably won't take many, or even any of these suggestions. Heck, they might even have something objectively better in store for us than the semi-borrowed power upgrade system that I've cooked up here. But knowing what gets players excited will be helpful to them even so. That is why I'm sacrificing so much of my free time and energy on Project Decade. And who knows, they might just need these ideas to get WoW going in the right direction. Heck, if this video series just gets the Blizzard developers into the habit of creating a blue post with the thinking in it that goes in-depth enough for us to understand what they're doing and what their design goals are, then that would be a huge step forward. Even saying the thinking out loud is sometimes enough to get you a new perspective on what you're doing. Is it really what people want? Does it serve the purposes that it really should be serving in the end? Am I really doing something just to make a system look awesome instead of making the game overall better? What does it do for the fun factor? Am I making the mistake of prioritizing my design goals over the fun factor? Are my design goals the right design goals to have? Do my ideas match the spec's feel and flavor? Is it a net gain? Is it genuinely awesome? Things like that. Plus, We just plain need more communication from Blizzard. If Project Decade gets the development team into the habit of telling us the thinking for every change they make, then the whole project will have been worth it, even if they don't take a single suggestion. Again, if you see something you don't like bad trade offs or something you know is counterproductive or useless, or if you've thought of an idea that's better or cooler or more useful than mine, then don't hesitate to let me know. The more details you can provide about why you don't like it and what makes one of my ideas counterproductive or useless, or about why your idea is cooler or more useful than mine, the better. One of the main goals of Project Decade is to give whoever's in charge of class design and player power systems a good idea what appeals to players and what will actually get them excited to get back to WoW again. And the more you can say about the wherefore and the why, the better. I fully intend to iterate on this project and make changes in response to feedback. I know I'm going to make mistakes. Heck, I've already seen mistakes in some of the things that I've done. But if those mistakes generate the kind of discussion that Blizzard needs to hear, so much the better. Blizzard needs to see player engagement, humility, and feedback actually making change in action so they can start doing what needs to be done to turn WoW around. It can be done and it should be done. World of Warcraft can last another decade. So keep the feedback coming, folks. There's one last thing. I began working on Project Decade videos back in July, and considering how many months it has taken, the fact that there are 36 different sets of feedback to curate and compile, and multitudes of decisions to make based on feedback received, ideas others have come up with, and how to weave everything together into a fun, functional, and exciting whole, I don't have a chance in the tramaculum of getting this done in any reasonable length of time unless I get volunteers to help me curate and compile the feedback I'm getting. If you're willing to help curate feedback, please let me know. If I get enough interest, I will set up a Discord server where we can coordinate everything. Thank you in advance for your feedback and support. Let's make World of Warcraft the best game that it can be.